This is the official EFL Podcast.
Hello and welcome again to the official EFL Podcast, previewing and reviewing the best of the match action across the EFL and its competitions. On this edition of the show, we'll be focusing on the crucial Easter period ahead across all three divisions, with Sky Sports' EFL pundits Andy Hinchcliffe and Don Goodman. Firstly though, let's take a look back at possibly one of the most confusing ways to gain promotion ever for Lincoln City. To prove it, here's the commentary from BBC Radio Lincolnshire after the Imps 1-1 draw with Cheltenham.
So we believe that we don't know. We're all trying to work out the maths, but the sound you hear is our brains trying to work things out here, aren't they? Right. So look, MK Dons. Let's have a look at this and try and do some maths very quickly. They both lost, Tom, have they?
Thanks to the Cheltenham Town fans who made the trip today and have a safe journey home.
Right.
And thanks for coming. We hope you had a great day here at Central Bank. And as always, Imps fans, wonderful support.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Because MK Dons and Mansfield have got to play each other still.
Yeah.
So they
can both get 9. Say they both get 9 points, right?
Or 10 for the draw, because they could both get.
Yeah, forget the draw for a second. 9 points gets Mansfield to 82. I think Lincoln are promoted. Yeah. I'm saying Lincoln are promoted despite everything, Rob. I think you're going to have to surprise people and get down pitch side. We'll carry on doing the maths here, but I think Lincoln are promoted. Yeah. We're going for a Lincoln. I'd normally get a more excited, less confused perhaps, but we were going with the win, but we think results have worked out their way. So Lincoln City have 84 points, 10 points behind them. Bury 10 points behind them. 10 points behind them are Bury. So the difference there means they can still get above Lincoln, but Mansfield and the MK Dons have each other to play. So 9 points for Mansfield puts them on 82 behind Lincoln City. 9 points for the MK Dons puts them on 81. Both of them can't come past Lincoln, so we're calling it as Lincoln City are promoted this afternoon here on BBC Radio Lincolnshire. There is no way that both Mansfield and the MK Dons can come past us. They play each other on the final day of the season. But Lincoln City, in my opinion, are promoted, and we are going up. Is the chant around the ground. So I'm just going to have a look at the league tables and try and take you through this. Lincoln currently have 84. Bury behind them can get 12 points to be 86. Lincoln have just confirmed it. And all of a sudden, many of the fans who are outside of the ground are turning around and coming back in. And the party about to start. Lincoln City confirmed in League One.
Wow. Very confusing indeed. Well, Lincoln City midfielder Tom Pett, who played in the match, joins us on the line now. Tom, first of all, congratulations on the promotion. What was it like at the end of the game, though, and how long was it before you actually realised you'd got promotion?
We knew before the game if we'd have got a win, I think we was all but promoted. But obviously, when we ended the game and it was a draw, I think a lot of people were asking everyone, "Are we up? Are we not? Are we up?" So it took 5-10 minutes for everyone to do the math. I think with MK still needing to play Mansfield, I think it is. So after we realised that and realised that we couldn't get actually caught mathematically, it was it was a great feeling. But it was a strange one to start with. But once the news had filtered through, it was a feeling of relief, and all that hard work that we've done all season. It's made sure that it's all for the right reasons. So it was a great feeling and a strange one at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, when you did realise, was it a bit of an anticlimax with the previous sort of, the reaction earlier on with, not knowing at full time that you were confirmed as promoted? Yeah,
it was. I think Danny said that as well, that it was a bit of an anticlimax. I think when you go to bed on the Friday night before the game, I think you imagine when you win a big pitch invasion and everyone's celebrating. But I think the way it was that we didn't really know if we was up or not. It was a strange feeling, and one that you probably a little disappointed that you couldn't celebrate it the way you wanted to. But we've got another chance to do that when we hopefully go and win the league now.
Yeah, just coming back to, you sort of mentioned it there in terms of the manager's reaction, but what did he say to you? You know, what has he said to you this week? Has he told you to enjoy yourselves, or is it purely get the focus down onto the next game?
I think everyone knows what both the Cowleys are like, and they're not going to let us rest on what we've done already. I think we've been top for the majority of the season, and I think as players and as a team, we've all got standards that we strive to get to day in, day out, and that's not going to change. I think we want to go and win this league and show everyone that we're the best in this league, and then we deserve to win it. So it's been a week where we watched the game back on Monday morning. It was as we would normally do. There was no days off. We was in Monday to watch all the video and what we did right and what we did wrong, and we've set our objectives now to go and win the league, and that starts this weekend at Carlisle, and hopefully we will go and do it. But we've set up training all week as any other game this season, so it's been no different. Our mindset's on to Saturday and to get the 3 points and to go and lift the trophy at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, you've been so strong throughout the season. There's been a real consistency in terms of your performances. What do you put that consistency down to?
I think it's the people we've got and players we've got here. I think we're a humble group who will never get ahead of ourselves. We don't put ourselves before the team. We put the team before ourselves, and that's every single one. I think, and it's like shown of how. I think we had a little bit of dip in form about a month ago now, and I think that really showed that we had a dip, but we're still getting points to keep adding to our tally. We've now lost. I think the last time we lost the game was Boxing Day, so that just shows what a strong mentality we've got here. Danny always says you've got to kill us to beat us, and that's a mentality that we've taken all season. I think teams know that when they play Lincoln, it's never going to be an easy game. Even if we're not playing very well, we'll still keep going and going. And I think we've only lost 4 games all year, and I think the majority of them games we're down to 10 men at one point. So no, it's a joy to be a part of. You know when you're not playing well that everyone's going to roll their sleeves up and graft and grind out either the point or the 3 points. That's it's been massive for us, and our mentality will be the reason that we hopefully go and win this league.
Of course, it is your, such a successful season, but it's your first season at Lincoln. Was that part of the appeal when you joined the club? What was it the sort of togetherness that was seen from the outside, as well as obviously what's the case on the inside of Lincoln as well? Was that part of the appeal, the attraction of becoming a Lincoln City player?
Yeah, I mean, I knew what Danny and Nicky were like as people and as managers from previously playing against them at non-league level, and I think I've always admired how well they've done to come up from that level and on the budgets that they did at non-league, and with not just one team but 2 or 3 teams. So I knew what kind of managers I was getting myself into when I signed for Lincoln. But that was part of the appeal. It was to be successful and to get promoted to League One, and we nearly done it last year when I first signed. But to have a whole season with them and to progress not only as a team but as a player myself under them, it's been great. But that was one of the appeals, that I knew I was going to get myself into a team that was going to work hard, be strong mentally, but also enjoy my training, because staff here, the backroom staff and the coaching that goes on is really good as well. So I knew I'd improve as a player, not just as a person. But that was definitely part of the appeal when I first signed and first started speaking to Danny on the phone back in last January.
And finally, for you to be promoted as champions, if you could do that at Carlisle, what would that mean to you personally and to the club as well?
Yeah, massive. I think not many players will play out their career and have a championship medal, whether that be in the Premier League or Championship, League One or League Two. So to be able to say I'm a champion and to say we were the best team in this league over so many games, it would be a massive achievement, not just for the team but personally. I've only had I've won a league as a non-league player, but and that was the best day of my career. So to look forward to the feeling of winning a league in at League 2 level with the amount of teams and good players are at this league, it would be an unbelievable achievement, not only for myself but the team and for the city and the club. I think they deserve it. The amount of the fans that follow us up and down the country, they really deserve it. Just taking, I think it was nearly 6,000, just over 6,000 to MK Dons, just shows what kind of support we've got behind us and back in. And so it'll be one to give back to the fans to show the support to us and as a city. But personally, it'll be the greatest day of my career.
Tom, thank you very much for your time and good luck on Friday.
No worries. Thank you very much.
EFL fixtures in focus.
Now, joining me to preview an exciting EFL Easter are Sky Sports commentators Andy Hinchcliffe and Don Goodman. Firstly, starting with you, Andy. You're covering one of the early kickoffs with Sheffield United taking on Nottingham Forest. A must-win for Sheffield United this is, isn't it? How disappointed will they have been after conceding that 94th minute equaliser against Millwall last weekend?
Well, you saw, I think, also the effect it had on Leeds United, because apparently the Leeds players were warming up when news of that goal came through, so it gave Leeds a big boost as well. But of course, this stage of the season, it's not about necessarily good performances, it's about getting a result. And if Sheffield United had won that game 1-0, that's what they would have wanted. 2-1 all draws in the last couple of games, clearly not what Chris Wilder was anticipating. They, as usual, dominated the game, had plenty of chances, weren't quite as maybe clinical as we've seen in the past. But we're getting to a stage this season now where it is just about winning, and that's all Sheffield United can do. We're playing first, they've just got to pick up the points, get back on level points with Leeds and hand the pressure over to Leeds. They've got a couple of tricky games coming up, Leeds as well, against Brentford and Villa. So that's all Sheffield United. But again, that brings kind of a strange kind of pressure, because they're used to just playing their own game, and normally that wins enough matches for them. But now, with it being all about winning, it maybe just changes the players' mentality. So they've just got to adapt a little bit to the kind of the special circumstances of this game, playing first, a must-win game. So I'm sure Chris will be working with his players to make absolutely sure they're kind of on message for getting the job done. I
suppose the nature of the Championship, does that really help them in a sense? Because anyone can beat anyone, can't they?
It does, but also what's the great strength of Norwich and Leeds and Sheffield United this season has been their consistency. They haven't, I think in many ways, teams up at the top tend to, they have a good batch of results, and then suddenly things go wrong or there's a poor performance. But those three in particular, it's why they're at the top of the table, is their style of football, their consistency. That's why they're there. The other sides are below them because they're a bit hit and miss and aren't as good, aren't as consistent as the top three. So yes, anybody can beat anybody, but it's not really happened with the top three this season because of their dominance. And that's what Chris will hope, that, again, why change the way that we play? We don't need to panic. We don't do anything differently. Just he's hoping, as Leeds are hoping, and Norwich, is that their philosophy that they had from day one is actually kind of bears fruit right at the end of the season as well. So this is not the point in the season to panic and change.
Looking at Forest, I mean, they're probably out of the playoff picture now, but how much do the players have to play for now for next season? They're playing for contracts, aren't they, effectively now?
You do get the sense. I've been looking at, obviously, Martin's team lineups, the changes that he's made to personnel in formation as well. It seems to me that clearly he felt, and we've seen in the last few results, that Forest aren't good enough to finish in the top six. So he's assessing the squad. The squad are trying to maybe prove themselves to him as well, because there are going to be changes. Over the summer, we expect a bit of movement there as well, because what Martin's been brought in to do is to get this team promoted. It's clearly not going to be this season, so they want to start next season very quickly. So that's what I think it's been about, the games that he's been in charge, the 15 games. They've lost more than they've won. But I just think he realises that the top six this season was not going to happen. So it's assessing the squad, getting them sorted out, a lot of work in the summer in terms of transfers, and kind of hit the ground running in August. So it's about putting all that together between now and the end of the season. It's more important to Nottingham Forest. But it's going to be a tough game. And what they can't afford to do is go there away from home. Bramall Lane will be absolutely bouncing. And as you say, what kind of performance are we going to get from Forest? And that's why Sheffield United have to be a little bit careful, because players playing for their futures, they're in mid-table, they've nothing to play for but their futures, and that makes them very dangerous.
And with the fact that, it didn't help them last week, I suppose, for Sheffield United, but the fact that they are playing first, it does give them that chance, doesn't it, to put the pressure on Leeds again, maybe?
It can, but also it brings the pressure for Sheffield United, because they'll know that this is what they want to do. And as I say, it can maybe change your mentality a little bit when yes, you've got to win. You're playing first, so it makes it even more important that you win because you want to pile pressure on a team whose performance you can't control. So again, it was bound to happen because things were so congested. It was so tight at the top of the table. It was going to come down to these fine margins. And I think in terms of the players' mentality, or whether you play first or second, these little subtle differences, they're not all playing at the same time. It does make a difference. And again, as I say with Chris, he will be working hard on his players to say, look, we've been through a promotion campaign before. We've been through this type of circumstance before. We've drawn a couple of games. We're not the worst team in the world, clearly. We just keep going. So whether it's an early kickoff or an evening one, we just do what we do and hope that's good enough to win the game. But they as I say, they have to win. The pressure is piled on them. They're looking to then do their job and hand that pressure over to Leeds.
Coming to you now, Don, to talk about Leeds. They're against Wigan. With 2 wins over this Easter period, they could potentially secure promotion, depending on Sheffield United's results, of course.
Well, I don't think that they'll be banking on that. I think what you've got to do is expect your competitors to win and have that mindset that you need to go out there and win. And it's the Championship as well. They can't take Wigan lightly. Both Wigan and Reading have taken points off Norwich in the last week, and they will have taken points off Sheffield United, as if to highlight the point of what can happen. The difference this time, I think Wigan away, with respect, they're a little bit of a different beast to Wigan at home, aren't they? As proved the other day in their performance against Norwich, they were excellent. So it will be a game that Leeds are expecting to win. And then, of course, Monday at Brentford is very, very tough. Brentford, well, their home record is only bettered by the top 3 there. That is a very, very dangerous game for Leeds United. So I don't think that they'll be thinking that they can have it secured. I think they'll be thinking that Sheffield United are going to beat Nottingham Forest, going to beat Hull, and that they need to beat Wigan and Brentford. I think that'll be the mindset.
Yeah, Andy, I mean, what sort of test will Wigan provide Leeds? We saw last week against Norwich, they took that point and maybe could have taken all 3. It really sometimes it is in the Championship, isn't it, where you don't really know what you're going to come up against at times.
Well, if you look at it, it's a Leeds home game against a team in the table that is battling relegation. But as we saw from that Norwich game, I was really impressed with Wigan. Bielsa, I'm sure, will have watched that game or will get his players to watch it back as well. There was a great organisation. They took the game to Norwich. They played really well. Leon Clark had a great chance at 1-0 to make it 2-0, which would have probably killed the game off. So the league table is really deceptive. Wigan are a good side. Reece James has been absolutely immense for them playing in midfield as well. They are a decent side. I think this season they could easily have had maybe 10 more points than they've actually picked up. They've just not been clinical enough. But if you look at the league table and are kind of seduced by that and think it's just it's a tie near the top of the table against Wigan, 4th from bottom, it's straightforward. It won't be. Bielsa's not that daft. He will know just how good Wigan are. So I don't think we should write that game off as saying, well, it's a guaranteed home win for Leeds, because if Wigan approach it in the same way as they did Norwich, are positive and play on the front foot and try and take the game to a very good team, Leeds will have to work very hard to win that game. But all they want to do is win it. So it doesn't matter whether it's 1-0 or 4-0, depending on what Sheffield United do. It's just winning the game. But it'll be a tough test for Leeds, no doubt.
And Don, of course, Leeds could maybe still in with a shout with the title, of course. If Norwich slip up in the late kick-off, there could be a point behind them going into that match.
Yeah, again, I think we're all surprised, aren't we, that Norwich only took 2 points from a home game against Reading and an away game against Wigan. They literally could be just about there or thereabouts now. But, from their perspective, they're not. Leeds United will hang on in there. Sheffield Wednesday go to Carrow Road in an evening game on Good Friday as well. Sheffield Wednesday will want to bounce back. They were a little bit poor. I think they didn't really hit the heights that they had in previous weeks against Leeds. Obviously, you've got to give Leeds United credit for that. They played well, and Sheffield Wednesday didn't. So Steve Bruce now will have written the possibility of a top 6 finish off, but he will want to finish the season with a real flourish and try and take that feel-good factor into next season. So, Norwich City, they still know that they're going to be in for a very, very tough game, and all you can do when you're the one chasing, whether it be for an automatic place or whether it be for a title or whether it be for a playoff position, all you can do when you're the one that's chasing is make sure that if that team above you slip up, that you are there to take advantage, and that way you can have no regrets.
Andy, looking at that match, Norwich against Sheffield Wednesday, Norwich could be promoted if results go their way that night. Can they keep that good form going now? I mean, they've had 2 draws last time out, but a long unbeaten run.
Yeah, you have to remember there's the opposition in all this. Reading and Wigan played really well against Norwich. So you can't just, again, like with Leeds or any of the sides over the top, you can't presume that they're going to win because of where they are in the table. But Norwich, all season long, they've had this philosophy. It was set at the start of the season. Results didn't come in the early part of the season, but the philosophy never changed. And that's why they've had the success that they've had. They've continued to play the same way. They keep kind of the same personnel in the team. So there's no real panic. Nothing will change regardless of their results because invariably they play pretty well in every game that they play. So again, if you look at the last 2 results maybe and think, well, there's 2 draws, they're starting to get nervous, they're running out of steam. That isn't the case with Norwich at all. Again, it's down to the opposition and it's maybe down to Norwich not taking a couple of chances, but their performances are still very strong. And again, it's that thread, it's that common kind of philosophy that's kind of gone throughout their season, and it's why they're top of the table. So Wednesday have to step up their game. That's the thing. With the game being at Norwich, a tough place to go. We know that this season. Wednesday were pretty poor. Leeds made them look pretty poor. So it's kind of a big game for Sheffield Wednesday as well. But if Norwich play like they've done in the last couple of games, there's a good chance they'll actually win.
Don, looking at Sheffield Wednesday, are the playoffs out of the question now? I mean, you saw them last week against Leeds and they didn't really impress in that match, did they?
I mean, they're 6 points off Bristol City, who are currently holding that 6th spot, and Bristol City have a game in hand. I mean, I do think it's a very, very, very tall order, and I just think really that it's more about them finishing strong. And as I've already alluded to, just do the best you can, and if those teams above, and let's be realistic, Sheffield Wednesday actually need 1, 2, 3, 4 teams above them to slip up at the same time. That's what makes it a nigh on impossible task in my opinion. So, like I said, from their perspective, it probably does flip on its head. This time of the season, it's all about winning. It doesn't matter how you win, just win the game. I think for Wednesday now, I think they need a level of performance that they can, build on going forward.
Yeah, certainly looks like a tall order for them. I mean, Andy, despite the recent draws, it is really difficult to look past Norwich in this one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think any way that you cut it. But I was at the DW for the Wigan game, and it's not just the players. It's the whole club. Stuart Webber was there, Delia Smith was there. They were chatting to Daniel Farke by the side of the pitch. They were kind of smiling and talking about the game that they'd just seen, and you can just tell that there's no panic, and that has been the story of the season. They've had this philosophy. The players know exactly what's going to be asked of them, regardless of results. And it's been such a strong season. They are such a strong club. So, yeah, Wigan played really well. And I do think Daniel Farke and everyone at Norwich appreciated that. So they just reset and they go again. But the fact it's at Carrow Road, if it was at maybe at Hillsborough, might be a slightly different story. But as I say, Norwich, there's no reason for them to panic. They've come up against 2 decent sides who play well against them. But the thing is, when you've drawn games like that as well, you want to get back on track. They've had this amazing winning run, and that's always the worry for Sheffield Wednesday is a Norwich team, even though it's played reasonably well, hasn't won for the last couple of games. They're going to be really fired up and want to put in a really strong performance in front of what will be clearly a very passionate kind of home fans as well, because they realise how close to the finishing line that they are. So this is why Wednesday really need to dig deep for this one. I'm expecting a big performance from Norwich.
Sky Bet League One.
Moving now onto League One and the game that you're at, Don, Sunderland v Doncaster. A big game this for both clubs. This could be a dress rehearsal for the playoffs even, couldn't it?
Well, I mean, it has that potential. I have to say, this time last week, and that's how quickly it can change. I was thinking that Sunderland were going to go on now and kick on and actually overhaul Barnsley and get into the automatic spot. I genuinely felt that. But obviously, 1 point from a home game against Coventry and a game against Burton Albion is not what the doctor ordered, really. So it's really put them on the back foot and maybe perhaps handed them back to Barnsley. So again, like I've already alluded to earlier in this podcast, you've got to be in position to take advantage of clubs above you slipping up. And Sunderland will believe that Barnsley won't win all their games. I mean, you have to remind yourself, it's not just Sunderland now in the chasing pack. Portsmouth have just strung 5 wins in a row together, and that makes them very, very dangerous. They're on the same points as Sunderland. and they have to play each other. So all the indicators are that Barnsley are in pole position, but obviously, like I said, it's not just Sunderland. Portsmouth will believe, being only 2 points behind Barnsley with a game in hand, that they can still have a say in this. So there are some really juicy games. I mean, it's all about the pressure, isn't it? Doncaster Rovers, from their perspective, they're under a little bit of pressure. They've played a game more than Peterborough, who are below them and in seventh place, and they do have what looks like a very, very tough run-in. So, it's a huge game with lots of pressure for both of these football clubs.
But it's so important for Sunderland now to get back to winning form, because automatic promotion is still in their hands if they win that game in hand, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. They will believe that that they're going to have to go and win every game, and they also believe that they're capable of doing that. I mean, that was remarkable. I mean, what a remarkable game that was, the 5-4 defeat at home against Coventry. I mean, you don't get that too often, do you? But it was remarkable for all the wrong reasons from a Sunderland perspective. They had literally the best defence in the league, and then they go and concede 5 at home, albeit to a very talented young Coventry City team. But it really has dented, and obviously it brought an abrupt end to that 19-game unbeaten run. But along the way within that 19-game unbeaten run, there were an awful lot of draws, I have to say. In fact, they had 17 draws this season. They've lost 3 games all season. So if they don't get promoted back to the Championship, either automatically or via the playoffs, then it will be those draws that will prove costly.
Well, looking at Doncaster, of course, on a great run of form, on that run of form, they look to be on the verge of securing their playoff place at some point. I mean, how impressed have you been with them? 5 wins on the spin.
You have to be impressed, don't you? You really, really do. I mean, they have found form at just the right time. I mean, they'd had a terrible run prior to those games, haven't they? I think they've gone 6 games without a win and taken only 3 points, and that really offered an opportunity. I mean, Peterborough themselves, they've just won 3 on the spin. So, it is sort of all set up, for a grand climax as to who gets that 6th place. I mean, if Doncaster can avoid defeat, I think that would make them heavy favourites, perhaps. Looking at Peterborough's running, they have it tough. I think they've got to play Portsmouth as well as Sunderland. So, Doncaster are still in pole position, but they will want to continue this winning momentum that they've gained over the last few games.
I mean, based on that form, could they be the dark horse for promotion? There's big teams above them who have a lot more pressure on them maybe to go up.
Well, it is remarkable, isn't it? When you look at that league, within the top sort of 8, you've got, what have you got? Barnsley, Sunderland, Portsmouth, Charlton and Coventry City. You've got 5 of them that have been Premier League teams, which is quite remarkable, isn't it, really? So they could be the dark horses. At the end of the day, if you get into a playoff scenario, we've all seen it year after year after year, it can be a little bit of a lottery. And, often the team that goes into the playoffs with the best momentum is the one that can prevail. So I think first and foremost, Grant McCann, they'll be focusing on securing that 6th position. Because there are some very, very good teams above them that they will have to beat should they make it into the playoffs. I mean, Charlton Athletic look also absolutely flying, aren't they? Luton are away, but Barnsley and Sunderland have just lost games which have ended massive, long, unbeaten runs. So it's been very, very competitive. It's been a very, very strong League One season, I do have to say, this season.
Sky Bet League 2.
Now moving on to League 2 and Andy, looking at Lincoln, they could be named champions this weekend if results go their way. How important is that going up as champions after securing promotion last weekend?
Well, they will be champions, deserved as well, if you look at how much they're kind of leading the league by. But in many ways, title winners are not always remembered. It's about getting promoted that's absolutely key, however you do that. But if you dominate a league in the way that Lincoln have done and can win it by 10 points or more, then clearly you've got the quality and consistency to dominate League 2, and that should see them cope pretty well in League 1. In essence, they're playing kind of League 1 football in League 2 with that consistency and quality. And I think sometimes you see playoff winners going up, they carry momentum, a big euphoria. But if you're probably in charge of a playoff winner or a team like Lincoln, you'd probably be happier to be Lincoln, because not necessarily because you've won the title, but it's the way that you've gained that promotion as well, the high quality of your performances and your high standards. And that gives them a very good chance of doing very well next season. As I say, they're pretty much playing League One, quality League One football in League Two. So could they, again, back-to-back promotions? It's happened before when teams get on a roll and clearly they're doing something right. They could go flying through the division. So they're one to watch next season, Lincoln, because of course how they've dominated League Two this time around.
Don, another close race behind Lincoln, though, in League Two, in the hunt for promotion. 4 teams going for the other 2 spots. Yeah. I mean, it's very difficult to predict this league, isn't it?
Oh, it's almost impossible, really. I think one thing is for sure, this race for those 2 spots is going to the last day. It's going right to the wire. And actually, what is exciting for the neutral is that Bury have got to play Tranmere Rovers in the penultimate game, and MK Dons play Mansfield in the last game of the season. So, there could be some unbelievable drama going on. But credit to all 4 of those. I mean, Tranmere have come from a very, very long way back, only losing one of the last 12. They've won 9 of those, so they're in fine form. Mansfield have got it back on track after a difficult period. And Bury the same, massive win against Colchester after 3 defeats in a row at the weekend. And it's MK Dons that you worry for probably the most, having lost 3 out of the last 6 games that they've played. They've just lost their way a little bit at just the wrong time of the season.
Despite sort of a difficult run recently, Bury, of course, are now in the driving seat after last week's win. From what you've seen, do they have what it takes to get that promotion? I mean, if results go their way this weekend, they could be promoted on Monday.
Yeah, it all happens at Easter, doesn't it? The games come thick and fast, and the points are there. And as a consequence of that, they could be again, as I've alluded to, in all the divisions. I wouldn't expect them to expect all the other teams around them to slip up. It's about taking care of your end of the bargain when you're in this position. And like I've already alluded to, it was an enormous win against Colchester after a little bit of a wobble. We all know about the difficulties that there have been off the field of play at Bury. And honestly, I commend Ryan Lowe and I commend the players and the coaching staff and the fans for sticking together and coming through what has been a very, very difficult period for them.
And of course, the next time we speak, Ryan Lowe's Bury could be a League One team. Don, Andy, thank you very much for joining us once again. And that's it from us this week. Thanks for tuning in.
The official EFL Podcast. The best reaction